I would not be as invested in like hardcore if I hadn't met people, either people whatever like me or people who are just like really nice people within hardcore, because I've met a lot of assholes. I don't know if you can swear on this podcast. I'm
You can.
sorry. Okay.
This is not Disney Channel or anything like
Okay,
that.
I was like, can I say this?
Sweet. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. This is another episode of the Scoped Exposure podcast. We travel from Western Canada all the way to Eastern Canada to Montreal to have Sienna of GAZM on the podcast. Thank you for coming on.
Yay. Hello. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Yeah, I'm very excited to be chatting with you. We got to meet officially kind of just over a year ago when you guys came through Calgary and played with Stepping Stone.
Yes.
And yeah, GAZM has kind of been on my radar ever since. So obviously going to be chatting about the band, but as far as like a proper introduction of what you do and where you live, can you give that for the folks at home who might not know who you are?
Sure. I'm Sienna. Hello. I don't actually live in Montreal anymore.
Oh, okay.
Big pandemic move. But the singer Seeger and me moved to Fredericton, New Brunswick.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Got
So
you.
he's originally from here, and now we just moved. We moved.
Gotcha.
So we're here now,
Yeah.
which for GAZM, not the best. But for, wild times, wild measures. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. Seems like a lot of people have done some kind of reallocating geographically. I know like the lead singer of Knock Loose lives in California, so like that's a long distance away. But yeah, like I think like you said, wild times, wild measures. So that's sick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we've been thinking about moving here for a while, and then everything got locked down, like with Seeger tattooing and me, like I got laid off in March. So it was kind of like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Why don't we go somewhere else?
Right. And plus,
no, go.
yeah, plus living in a time where like, bands from all over of different levels can, just get together to practice before a tour, and it's just like if they were in the same neighborhood. So, we live in a time where, having a long distance band is doable. So that's sick.
For sure, because our guitarist Seb lived in Toronto for like a majority of the band.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Which I don't think a lot of people know, but Seb basically lived in Montreal, I think for the first couple years. But they moved back to Toronto, and then they just moved back to Montreal, and then we moved. So we're like permanently long distance band.
Yeah. I'm surprised there's not just a real estate agent just for GAZM members, it seems.
I know. That'd be great.
Well, yeah, I'm very excited to be chatting about these things. But before we get super deep into the conversation, just got to do the bev check portion of this podcast. So we're both rocking the mugs. I
Yes.
usually have some kind of sparkling water, but I found this kind of like dirty chai mix. So me and my wife tried that out this morning, but I realized I didn't have my coffee, so rocking this in a Scoped Exposure mug.
Wow.
On the other side, it's a Pitch Black North, which is a local tea homie here. So
I love
shout
that.
out to Dom.
God,
what do you got on your end?
I have a coffee from the coffee machine upstairs.
Nice.
It's in a Tim Hortons mug. I don't know. It's the biggest one.
Yeah, that looks like a pretty ancient looking Tim Hortons mug.
Yeah, I mean, it has like, I don't know if you can see. Everybody, can we see?
Yeah.
Can we see?
Yeah.
Little makeup tutorial video. I don't know. Yeah, it's the biggest mug here. I don't know.
Yeah.
Just needed that coffee energy today.
Yeah, I put out a podcast just yesterday with Matt from Boundaries, and we were just talking about Tim Hortons and how people drink their coffees like absolute maniacs, like the triple triples and the 4x4s and things like that. Do you have a personal take on Tim Hortons, and if that is is that hardcore friendly?
Yeah. I don't know. It's cheap, but I don't know. If I was gonna if I really, really wanted a good coffee, I probably wouldn't go to Tim Hortons.
Right.
Also, the Tim Hortons here are always busy. Like,
Mm,
I don't know, no matter what time of day, there are like lineups, like cars parked like in the drive-through on the highway, like
yeah.
waiting.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm pretty neutral, but if someone goes to Tim Hortons and gets me a coffee, that is dope.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, free coffee is always anything free always tastes better anyways, but yeah,
Mhm.
it's definitely not something I'm like if I have time and resources and
Yeah.
standards, I want to get something that I either make or that's something local, but I think, gun to my head, if I had to do the Tim Hortons or like gas station coffee, like I'm like, okay, like Timmy's gets my $2 or my toonie for all my
Yeah.
Canadian friends
I
listening.
feel like an extra large is like 250.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
It's
Like
true.
probably financially speaking, it's a good if you're desperate, I'm like, it's morning time, I need a coffee. Definitely Tim Hortons.
Right.
That's my
Yeah.
take.
Yeah. I always have to check myself because it seems the majority of the podcasts are now starting with like a 5 to 10 minute only coffee or bev conversation. So we'll start to transition it here. But Sienna, I'm not sure if you've gotten to check out any of the previous podcasts, but all of my guests, I always ask the same kind of intro question. How
Sure.
did you get into heavy music? So take me back in time. Tell me some of like the first times you heard a breakdown, a heavy riff, someone screaming, and how that kind of put you on that path for where you are now.
Gosh. That's a good question. That's a good way to start, I guess.
Yeah, context
Uh,
matters. So
Probably like high school. I feel like that's like a very classic time for a lot of people, I think. But I'm trying to think. I definitely remember okay, so I grew up in Toronto, and everyone in Toronto will laugh if they watch this at my description of this because I still know so many of the people that were there. Seb, Seb was literally at my first show, the first show I ever went to. It was in a backyard across from my high school.
okay.
And I had an undercut little side shave moment, but I was very, I was wearing high waisted shorts, had kind of gone thrifting, was kind of like, who am I? You know? So I went to this, didn't really know what was happening. My other friends were there. They kind of were like, "Do you want to come to this show?" And I had no idea. Went, and it was just classic like TOHC stuff, like Wastoids, I think Direct Approach, like all of these like at that point like people in high school like being in bands. Seb's first band played. And I remember just being like, what is going on? This is like amazing. Everyone's like day partying after school basically, and there's like a bunch of angry music in the backyard, and it just like from that moment I think it just clicked. I was like, this is it. This is like what I want. And then yeah, from there just kind of went off. I feel like a bunch of people at my high school played in shows, so they would be like always around high school. It was like, oh, come to here like on Saturday, and then we would all just take the bus and like go.
Right.
So it was more like I think it was more live shows first,
Sure.
which I think is kind of strange because a lot of people always are like, oh, I listened to whatever, I heard Poison Idea and like that was it, or like they found a record. But I feel like for me, it was like going to shows first
Hmm.
that then I like got interested in it after.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting because a lot of it has been like I played Tony Hawk and I heard this crazy
Yeah.
song and then I went down the rabbit hole. But yeah, that's
Yeah.
interesting where it was like more of the experience. Like I feel like and seeing the trend where a lot of people will get intrigued with the music and then the shows is what kind of galvanizes it and kind of makes it a
Hmm.
full latch on. But it seems like you just had the latch come early and then you're like, maybe I should actually learn some of these bands they're playing these shows. So that's very interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely a benefit of growing up in a city, I think, is
Yeah.
that it was always like super accessible to go. to a show instead of just like looking at it or like reading about it or listening to music. So I definitely benefited from that. I don't know, pretty good. I remember being at a record store and there was this, it was Toronto and Montreal. It was like an LP and it was a comp.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if you've heard of this. I think it's called like I think it's like City Limits. I could be wrong. I can't remember now. But it's like a Toronto Montreal comp record. And it was like on the Montreal side, it was like Omega's, Violent Intent, like all of those bands. And then on the Toronto side, it was like all the popular bands active at that time. So it was like Career Suicide was on it. Like there was a bunch of bands on it. And I remember having that record and being like, this seems really like exactly what I'm interested in. And then seeing the like Bad Brains, like, you know, the yellow one was like banned in DC or whatever. And I had both of them in my hand and I was just like, which one do
Yeah.
I buy? And, you know,
Right.
I was like, I only get one record, you know, I need to like buy one that I think is like going to be the most, is most like my interest. And I picked the Toronto Montreal comp. And I think that also just like shot me in a very like localized direction.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
and yeah, and that's man, I'm having flashbacks, and this is outside of music, but I remember specifically there was a local video game shop, and I had enough money to buy one game, and I was holding
yeah,
Pokemon Stadium for the N64 and Tony Hawk's Pro Skater
yeah,
2.
yeah.
And I still to this day think about how my life could have gone differently if I chose the different.
Yes.
I ended up picking. Wait, where is that? Pokemon Snap. So there's like, I have this weird like Pokemon obsession, but I think I might have had a weird skateboard obsession if I did that. So it's really interesting how you chose a local focus versus like arguably one of the biggest bands of all time in the hardcore space. So no, that's really
Yeah.
interesting.
Which at the time, you know, I think I was in like grade, maybe like the beginning of grade 11,
Right.
summer of grade 10, beginning of
No,
grade
no
11.
idea at that point.
No, in
Yeah.
my head, I'm like, whatever, you know, but like
Right.
now I think about it, I'm like, oh my God. I've listened to both of them a lot, both of those records a lot, but
Right.
I definitely think about it and I'm like, this was like the moment. Very strange how you're young, your brain works, you know?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and just yeah, I do think it's cool, like you said though, just how shows came first and then the music like kind of came second. But you were already kind of latched in that regard. So um
Mhm.
so started doing shows. How did you kind of come into like obviously you're playing bass in GAZM, but I've also
Yeah.
seen photos where you were doing vocals and fronting bands. So tell me about
Oh,
how that became, okay, now like this is actually accessible for me to go to, but it's also accessible for me to be a part of. So tell me about the transition there.
uh, hmm. Well, I think that it just came like from the kind of person that I am. I think like being younger, I didn't really think about accessibility that much, especially when it came to like being in a band. I was just kind of like, I'm gonna do this.
Right.
And then the older I got, the more I realized how much it was like different to have like women or like, you know, like whatever people like me, like in bands or like being in the front or like being at a band or at a band, at a show,
Yeah.
at a band. Oh my God. Um, so I think with like my early bands, I think it was just more like I really knew that I wanted to be like a part of it in more ways than just going.
Sure.
So I think that's how the first band came. I also was just like really angry, I think. And I was just like yelling in front of people. People can watch me yell. That's so fun,
Yeah.
you know? And then with GAZM, well, I moved to Montreal and I actually didn't play the bass at all. I just happened to own one.
Oh, okay.
I had been gifted. Basically, I thought in my first band that I was going to play bass. So I got one of my like high school friends to lend me their bass that literally is from Costco. That was from Costco.
Nice.
Yeah. And I was like, perfect. I have a bass. Great. Ended up doing vocals. Then in GAZM, I knew I wanted to start a band, but I really at the end of the day, like vocals, like I don't, it makes me really anxious. Like I look back at it now and I'm like, I can't believe I did that. Like too much. And I think like, to be a vocalist, you like have to have the personality. You like really have to have like the confidence, I think. And I wanted to be in a band, but I didn't want to do vocals. So I was like, oh, I own a bass.
Yeah.
I'll play that. And
Right.
I was like, I'm going to start this. It's like my idea to start a band. So I was like, they can't kick me out because I kind of started it at the beginning.
Right.
And I was like, well, I own a bass. So we'll just like learn. We'll learn.
Hmm.
So that's kind of how GAZM started. I just wanted to play bass, just wanted to be in a band, move to a new city, just like wanted to do something different, you
Yeah.
know?
So just so I'm understanding correctly, when GAZM started, it was there was thoughts of you rocking the mic for that band, but then you're like, no, 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 I'm gonna do the bass for this instead.
It was like very much like before it even became a band, like my own thoughts about it. I was like, I could do vocals. I'm starting the band. Should I do vocals?
Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah.
And then when me and Seeger met, we met at like university residence because we both moved to Montreal in the same year.
Oh,
And
okay.
he couldn't play anything except for drums. He was like, I don't want to play drums. I've only played drums in my bands before.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, perfect. You can't do anything but drums and you don't want to play drums, vocals.
Right.
I don't want to do vocals and I own a bass.
Yeah. So yeah, the things just fell into place that way. No, that's very interesting, and maybe just just having it, just sitting there in your room as a constant reminder, like, yep, I'm gonna do this one day, and then just eventually it comes to
Yeah.
fruition. Um,
Yeah.
so as far as the latest release that you guys have put out, you guys put out, I guess like it's an LP. It's got a plethora of songs on it. It's called
Yeah.
Heavy Vibe Music, which
Yeah.
is, in my opinion, what like a great LP name. Um,
Thank you.
I was perusing through your Instagram and I saw one of Bad Bill. Um, this is from like 2016, but he had a slice of pizza, and what he says in the video
Oh,
is, I guess, the intro track, Fuck With Me.
yes.
So I was like, are these things connected, or is this pulled from something else that I'm not seeing?
No, Seeger just made that up. We were on tour. I think that was our first tour.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure the video you're talking about is he's shirtless, right? And has
Yeah.
the pizza,
Yeah.
like this big
And,
slice.
and,
Yeah.
and for the folks who haven't seen the clip, it's not just like a pizza box and it opens and it's on the bottom flap. It's the entire opened pizza box, very, very long slice.
Yes, it's the biggest pizza slice I've ever had.
Yeah.
But it was our first tour, and we were in DC. I think the pizza place is called Duccini's.
Yes.
I could be
Yeah.
wrong.
No,
It's
it is.
just
Yeah.
yeah, okay. And everyone was like, we have to go. So we go. Seeger's like hyped. Like so hyped. We played the Chill Factory. It's like I don't know, very good house venue. Oh, sorry.
Oh, you're all good.
And we were just like on the street eating this pizza, and he was just like riffing. I don't know. I think it's just his personality.
Yeah.
And he was just fuck with me, walk with me, like here we are, we're in America, you know? And then I think that just like it just became the first track of the album. Like he just says it, like we all reference it all the time now.
Oh, so it's a constant thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So it like kind of took on its own, where it's like an inside joke kind of, but like mostly just Seeger being wild. And then we were like, it would be hilarious. That's so many of GAZM's ideas, just being like, it would be crazy if the first song had this in it. And Seeger was like, great.
Yeah. Yeah, I was doing the A/B testing and I was like, okay, it's not, you guys actually didn't take the audio from that clip and use it. It's like a
No,
re-recording.
we did it
But
again.
it sounds like that's just been in the GAZM universe for so long as far as like a go-to inside joke. But that is really funny. Is there any other call it GAZM ideas that came to life that you were just like, this is just the wackiest thing? I don't know if anyone's gonna get the idea.
I feel like that's kind of our vibe.
Yeah.
Like, I do really think, especially on the LP, like every song, like when I think about the LP, every song almost has like its own vibe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think when we were making it, a lot of times we'd be like, whoa, are people gonna get this? Do you know what I mean? Like, are people gonna get we just like we're like putting all of our interests into like one album basically. because you have some songs on that album that are like very metal.
Mhm.
And then you have some songs that are like super punk, just like mid-pace hardcore part. Like there's just so many things going on. And then you also have like Paradise, which is like this weird like emo moment thing down like ballad thing. It's
Right.
like so I think GAZM as a whole, we've always just been that kind of band where we do stuff and then we always just double take it for a second where we're like, is this crazy?
Yeah.
And then we're like, no, it's fun, you know?
Has there been any ideas where it's like maybe this is too crazy, or has most things just hit the public sphere?
Well, I think at the beginning when we were a band, I was pretty like I'm trying to think of how to explain.
Obviously, if there's something you're like, yeah, let's not talk about this ever again, you
No, no,
don't
no,
have
no,
to.
no, no, no. This is just more like so many of these questions that you're asking are so ingrained into like GAZM that I think back like to when because we've been a band for like 6, 7 years.
Yeah.
So it's been a long time. But at the beginning when we were a band, I was pretty like turned off by like hardcore, like capital H,
Yeah.
which obviously now not really the thing. But we're all growing, we're all changing. It's fine.
Yeah.
But so like I think a lot at the beginning when we recorded like all the songs from like literally before the LP almost, I was very much like when hardcore parts would be like written into the song, I'd be like, I don't know. But then, you know, as our tastes change and as my taste changed, it like I think it got crazier. I definitely was like the voice of reason.
Sure.
And
Okay.
they will all agree with me that there were a lot of times where there were riffs where I was like, no, no. But then as we progressed, I was more like very much into the idea of just being like literally as mean and as heavy as possible.
Right. If we could dig a little bit deeper there, because I think there might be
Sure.
some good things that we can touch on. Just the, how you painted it there, like capital H hardcore.
Yeah.
Um, what has been, GAZM has been around for a while now, and I've talked with other people too about like them wanting to start bands because they see hardcore going down a direction that isn't maybe the reason that they got into the music overall. So for you, is there, something where it's like, I still like this music and like going to shows, and the energy of hardcore shows can never be replaced by anything else, but I still have issues with, like, I guess is it the popularity of the music, or is it, just a mentality at shows? What is it for you that kind of, rubs you the wrong way?
Well, I think especially when I was younger, you know, I think like the man energy
Mm,
was like, you know, as much as sometimes it can be like hypothetical, you know, like now I go to hardcore shows all the time, obviously before the pandemic.
yeah.
But you know, I've never had an issue really. But when you're younger, you know, it's like hardcore wasn't cool. Like when I was growing up, if you liked hardcore, you were dumb.
Yeah.
Like it was like you're not like, you know what I mean? Like I remember when No Warning was like not a band that everyone liked.
Mm,
You know what I mean? It was like, oh, much music core, like whatever. You know what I mean? And then, you know, you're kind of like I was kind of existing in this realm where like wasn't cool to like hardcore. Also, hardcore shows, there's like a bunch of dudes that'll fuck with you. There's like a bunch of dudes yelling about like how their ex-girlfriends are like whatever blank word that like, you know what I mean, is like annoying and rude.
right.
So I think being younger for me, it was just like, why would I even delve into this? Like, why would I enjoy it when like it was assumed that like the people a part of it wouldn't respect me?
Mm, I
So
see.
that was kind of the vibe, I think. So I never really almost because of the base of what I thought a hardcore show would like a capital H hardcore, like not punk hardcore, like not that, not like moshy, but like you know what I mean, like capital H, like knocked loose and stuff like that, you
Mhm.
know. I think it just the idea of what the show could be turned me away from liking it. So just like going to a show got me into the music, that kind of idea of what people had painted hardcore shows to be like just really turned me off of it, I think.
Mhm.
And then I think as I got older, I just started like listening to what I liked and not letting like ideas of what it would be like affect how I acted. And also as I got older, I think I got more confident, obviously. And now I'm just like, I don't care. Gonna go to the show. It's gonna be an issue. If it's gonna be an issue for you, we can deal with it. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
I have no problem standing up for myself and like no problem being like, don't crowd kill me or
Right.
whatever.
Right. Yeah,
It
and
is.
and
So,
and kind of going back to, the very first part of this podcast, just talking about how you got interested in this through shows first and not
yeah.
through the music first. So, it's kind of the same for me. It's like I don't really think about I'm going to the show. I'm not going to the metalcore show, the hardcore show, the slam
Yeah,
show. It's like there's
sure.
something local. I want to support that. I want to film the bands that are playing and have some content on my end. But yeah, I think that there are some things, as hardcore as grown into maybe this more popular thing. It's still definitely like an underground
Mhm.
subculture, but
Yeah.
there's more eyes on it thanks to, certain bands that have kind of like pushed the envelope and things like that. But if we're not talking about, the ideals and just like the importance of, like making things equal, like talking about political things, like that just gets lost generationally over time because these kids grow up, they don't hear that at a show and then they don't take that and do that in their own bands.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a really weird, it's a very strange thing to navigate, I think. It like show like any kind of like punk, hardcore, like all of this stuff. It's just it's so all over the place like so much of the time. And I just think that the reason that I stick through it so much really is just because I love it so much.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like I love it so much that I like want to be a part of it in like every way possible, you
Yeah.
know? But if I didn't, there's a lot there's a lot going on that like I can see, you know. Yeah, I know. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah. Yeah, it is this weird thing where it's like I don't know. Like I could sit here and think about what else would I be putting my time and my money and my efforts into if I wasn't, but like this room would look different, like what I'm wearing right now would look so different. It's just like there's
Yeah,
so many aspects of hardcore that has shaped like not only the outside of my life but the inside as well. And so, that's why I fight for it a lot of the time, because there is a lot of like like quote unquote like bullshit as far as like, are you
yeah,
serious that someone said this about this band, or it's not
sure.
cool to like this band? So yeah, I think I had a podcast with Jem from the band Speed from Australia, and he was like, yeah, you have to fight for hardcore like all
Yeah,
the time. It's not just like, oh, we got to keep the scene alive. It's like you got to keep your community in check. You got to keep your bandmates in check. There's so many things to make sure the train is running uh, not only smoothly but properly. So
yeah, and I mean, oh yeah.
yeah,
Wow. That's really true. It's like I don't know, once you start really thinking about it and like especially like yeah, stylistically, financially, like all of these things, like it's so important to me that this is like it's such a key part of like who I am as a person. Like if I meet somebody and they say like, "Oh, I'm not a music person." Like
I'm out.
I don't know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I don't know. You know, like so many relationships that I have are based on this thing that can be so tumultuous,
Sure.
you know?
That's a great word. I have to say that
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. And I think too, like a lot of the time, a lot of like the work and the weight falls like on not necessarily like the people who you think it will, you know?
Mm,
So like especially in hardcore, I think so much of like the weight of it all like really falls on like non-white men. You know what I mean? Especially in like 2020. And I think that like makes it even more complicated because I would not be as invested in like hardcore if I hadn't met people, either people whatever like me or people who are just like really nice people within hardcore because I've met a lot of assholes. I don't know if you can swear on this podcast. I'm
you
sorry.
can.
Okay.
This is not Disney Channel or anything like
Okay,
that.
I was like, "Can I say this?"
Yeah.
So I think it's, like, about just weeding through and, like, making your own path, you know what I mean? And not just going to, like, the big hardcore gigs, but, like, really being invested in, like, your scene as a group itself, because I've seen bands play at, like, huge venues in Montreal that to me don't even compare to, like, the quality that comes from, like, the lower bands that will never get whatever. And this also, something that gets me riled up is, like, Canadian hardcore. Like, I am not a nationalistic person whatsoever, but when it comes to bands from Canada, oh my god, the quality is so high,
Right.
but the recognition is so low, almost based on, like, where we are,
Right.
right? So it's like, for the reason honestly, a huge reason why I think GAZM even got to the level that we did is because we did so many tours in America,
Hmm.
and so many big tours in America where we just played, like our last tour was a month. We literally went in a huge circle, did all of it, and
Yeah.
that's, like, such a huge thing. Or, like, even when you think about bands like Prowl, like, bands like Stepping Stone, like, huge, like, I love all the people in all those bands so much, but, like, they should be ginormous.
Right. Yeah. If it was swapped, where they were
If
just an
the
American
swap
band and doing the
over,
exact same like touring
like,
routes.
the
Yeah.
dudes are super nice, they, like, really have had my back, they've had, like, everyone I know, like, they always are, like, such kind people, and their music is so good, it's so well produced, it's just, like, everything you want, really, from a modern hardcore band.
Sure.
And, like, still it's very, like, the recognition is very low, I think, in the grand scheme of hardcore in general that's so run by America.
Yeah. Yeah. And I
Sorry.
remember.
America, I feel bad, but it's true. There's, like, such a trend in music that is completely decided always by how present you can be and your band can be in the States,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know?
And yeah, I'm having flashbacks to when Nathan from Stepping Stone came on the podcast, and he would tell me like, they're in little rinky dink Regina, Saskatchewan, and someone in Detroit will hit them up, be like, "Yo, can you drive down for this show? I had a band cancel." It's like, dude, like we're not from Toronto. Like we're in the prairies. We are
Yeah,
multiple days drive away, but I 100% agree with you as far as like, for some reason, as soon as it's like people want to put like boxes and like fences around certain bands when they find out they're from a certain area. I
for
had
sure.
I had this band from Hosser, which they put out probably one of my favorite hardcore releases of this year. But they're from Germany, and they were like, "Yeah, people like call us Eurocore, like in the States." I was like, "That is the
Yeah.
wackiest term that I've ever heard of
Oh,
any description. That had nothing to do with the music."
yeah.
So yeah, I totally agree that and there's some things where the states, and it's harder for Canadian bands to go down there to actually tour because you
Oh,
have to
yeah.
get visas. From what I know,
Oh,
it's all like it's kind of a
it's
night
a
and day difference for bands to come up. So
yeah.
it's yeah, it's just sad to see, and that's a huge goal of why I started Scoped. It was like we got all this talent, and it like the world just needs to see it, and bands need to see that people who tour here get moshed, like
Yeah.
people show up to mosh in droves for
Shout
them.
out to
So
Mosh people.
shout out to mosh people. That is going
Honestly.
to be one of those describing words. So let's kind of transition back. So the record that you got to, I did have another question on a specific track. So you guys have a song called 1-800 Crybaby. And which again is going back to that theme of Gaz and just being like, let's do this, let's do this.
Yes.
And then I was listening to it today, and at the very end, there's like a recording of like the phone dial and someone picking up.
Yeah.
So something that you
Yeah.
guys actually did in the studio, but I wanted to ask, have you ever actually dialed 1-800 Crybaby? Like, once you're actually doing the actual numbers.
No, I haven't, but I wanted as a part of the LP to get that phone number and set, because the whole idea behind it, right, is like it's very much about like whiners.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of the whole vibe where it's like if you have a problem, like if you don't like our band, if you, it's the classic like to the haters, like that kind of vibe where it's just like if you don't like it, literally fuck off, basically.
Call the number.
And at the end, and we kind of we I think we even like, I honestly can't remember, but we did a bunch of different, like we had planned to have a bunch of different people call, and Seeger just like improv this hot, like a bunch of people being like, oh, like the music's too loud, and Seeger being like whatever, fuck you, you know. So I really wanted to get that phone number and like on the record be like, call 1-800-CRYBABY, but it's like a huge schlep. It's not actually a phone number. I know that for sure, that there's nothing on the other line.
Oh, okay. I did have it queued up. I was like, if not, maybe we could call it here on the podcast. But if you know it's just gonna go, well, I don't know. And now I'm just talking about it. Now I just want to do it. So
Do it. I want to see.
All right, let's see if I can do this. Speaker. It's 27.
No.
No dice. But
I mean, there's still an opportunity for us to buy it up.
Yeah, unless someone listens to this podcast and they want to steal that idea. But yeah, we'll just have to.
Honestly, that would be even cooler. That would be even cooler. If someone else got it and like hinted that it was because of GAZM, but like made it something, that would be so sick. I would be jazzed.
Hey, there's people that listen to this podcast, and if you are a meme lord and want to do that, I mean, go for it. Please.
Take me and show me.
Yeah. You were mentioning a little bit earlier on, obviously like the band is based in Montreal, but members have kind of been all over. Are there any other Montreal bands that you feel like people need to know about? There's a fair amount of American and even international listeners, so I'm always a fan of hitting someone in a smaller, lesser known scene and kind of projecting not just their band, but the, a collection of. So anybody that you want to shout out from the Montreal area.
Oh my God. I miss Montreal. But I mean, I miss it. I miss the shows. I miss the gigs and everything. I'm trying to think. I mean, I feel like the pandemic like kind of flipped a lot of stuff around. Like I don't really know like who is as active anymore. But Montreal, like definitely, obviously Prowl. Always my number ones. Phase are another huge band from Montreal that are really, really, really good.
Oh, okay.
I'm trying to think of what else. Cell were really good. They're not a band anymore, but they were great. GAZM, obviously.
Is Phase FAZE?
Yes.
Gotcha.
It's hey, because there's a band from the States called Phase, right? Aren't they on like Triple B?
I don't know. I just know that I didn't write down this question because I didn't think it was gonna make sense or but there seems to be a trend in some hardcore bands where they'll replace S's with Z's or Z's. So I was like, you guys have that in. Well, I guess you can't really spell GAZM any other way.
Okay, hold on. GAZM, right, is a mix. Okay. Now I think back and I'm like, why did we pick this name? Because it like didn't connect in my brain at all that it was like basically a sexual, like pseudo-sexual band name, right? Think about it. And it's really just a mix of gaz, which is gas in French, and spasm.
Okay.
Yeah, which I feel like we kind of like, it doesn't really matter, but the Z is there. Yeah. But four-letter band names or huge.
Yeah.
A huge.
We run a playlist, and a theme that I'm working on right now is like single word, single syllable band names.
Yes.
Because I think that's like any other genre of music is like, what's the most epic and long thing that we can do, or what's it's so. I feel like I'm trying to think of this very broken down, but I think like band or artist names reflect these genres because You know,
I'm
you think
sure.
of any like death metal bands, it's like the longest, like grossest
Sure.
words that you can think of. Um, you know, every, SoundCloud rapper has like little or whatever in that. But, hardcore is like so short and to the point where it's like, what's the shortest thing that we can say that's not anything else? So, anyways, that's my long way of saying
No,
we have a
it's true. Oh,
no, that's
it
all good.
fits. I feel like it fits. Like, I don't know, long band names just become like really strenuous kind of.
Right.
You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like I don't need like 10 10 word band name. I just want it to be like to the point,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
straight. Very yeah, it's very true. It's a very like punk and hardcore thing, I think, just to be like,
Yeah.
that's it.
Yeah. It's very simple, and you're not gonna get it like lost in translation, like, okay, what was that band that had 4 words and there's a number in the middle there. um
Yeah.
but yeah, that we have a playlist like that coming out. And I think some of those are cool because then it kind of showcases like, oh yeah, like, maybe I'll just like, sorry, I'm just kind of all over the place here as far as trying to like do different things. But fuck it, I won't do that. But yeah, that'll be on the playlist at some point.
Yes, I'm
y-
excited.
yeah,
It's a good idea for the playlist.
yeah. We did one, and I'm trying to be as like experimental. We did one playlist that was like only songs under a minute. So like obviously there was
Oh,
a lot of
I
like
love
power
yes.
violence bands, but it's cool because I saw someone on Twitter was like, "Hey, I made a power violence like songs under a minute playlist because Scope did that for 1 week," and I was like, "That's
That's so
sick."
cute.
Yeah, I'm trying
So
to remember
sweet.
what his name is, but if you're listening, that's a you.
If you're
um,
listening, thank you.
yeah. Um, Another question I have is, GAZM has always been a band that has been heavy on the visual aesthetic and some of those things. And I know Seb is kind of like the in-house creative director, so to speak, on, making designs and album artwork. So talk to me about like how you guys come up with ideas for artwork, ideas for, tour posters and things like that. Is it all in their department, or is it kind of a group effort?
Um, well, everything, I don't think we've ever outsourced art, like ever.
Yeah.
I think everything's been either Seeger or Seb.
Gotcha. Okay.
So, like the album cover was a painting that Seb did, but the logo and like all the like graph font and stuff is Seeger.
Oh, okay. So it's a
Yeah,
combination. I gotcha.
it's a collaborative effort between them two.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Josh and I are kind of Josh is like the guy that makes it all ready to be printed.
Hmm.
He's like the computer. He like knows how to make it all ready to like be screen printed, and I'm just the peanut gallery basically. um, but yeah, I get yeah, it's all just been like collaborative efforts basically. Like we will just sit down and talk, or like someone will come with an idea. Like if Seb or Seeger comes with an idea, like 99% of the time we're all like, that's cool.
Yeah.
And just like they just do it and it gets designed. Like that's basically it. I think we're like really lucky because it helped us like have a really like set kind of like aesthetic, I think, throughout like all of our stuff.
Hmm.
And I think a lot of bands like because like they, aren't as lucky to have like two people who literally are like artists and like people who draw all the time,
Right.
it's harder to kind of figure out an aesthetic like for your band, and like that's such an important part. I think like a huge thing of GAZM I think has been our merch.
Mm.
So I think that we're like really lucky that Seven Seeger are just like all the time, like it's just I don't know. They're just always like boop, 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 like
Yeah.
just it's just
Things are always
turning.
turning. Yeah.
It's crazy. Like you're literally just like sitting and they're like, what if we did a shirt like this? I already drew it up, and they show us and it's perfect. And we're like, cool, let's
Hmm.
put it out. And then
Yeah.
we just do it,
It's very strange because a lot of the time when you are forming a band, you're just looking for people who either can play an instrument, are willing to learn, or like, have time to do that. But you
Yeah,
don't think about like what are the other things that this person brings to the table. And,
for sure.
it kind of is an afterthought where it's like, oh, like this, well, not an afterthought, but you kind of know like this person is into music production, so we can at least demo out the songs, if not record and put that out.
Oh
Some
yeah.
people have artists, some people have, graphic designers and videographers. So it's like doing up designs or filming music videos. So it's always kind of this weird thing where in like a business sense, you think about like, okay, I want this kind of if I'm building a team, these are kind of the roles or skill sets that I want. But for bands, it's like, well, I want to jam with these people. We write
Yeah,
good music, and then you have to kind of pick your battles. If you have to outsource, if you have to do that, but um, I don't know. For me, I think if a band doesn't have someone who's maybe on the super creative side, whether that's graphic designs, like reaching out to someone in your local area who you do like, and kind of not really making them an unofficial member of the band, but like working with them in a very close way to like have that consistent
for sure. For
imagery,
sure.
like you were saying,
Yeah.
with everything.
Yeah. No, I super agree. I mean, I can think of so many people like in Montreal that if we hadn't, if Seven Seeger hadn't been, artists or whatever, then I could just see so many people you could go to, and do that with. I think we were just lucky. I don't really know how it happened, but we're kind of like a weird, like GAZM right now feels like its own entity.
Mm-hmm.
Like it feels almost separate. Like we went through so many like phases and stuff and finally just hit this vibe where like Josh is just he's like, oh, he's so organized. It's like schedules, like everything, money. People will come up to me and try to buy a shirt and I'm like, go to Josh. He is the money guy.
Right.
Like organized, like it's unbelievable how organized he is. I can't even believe it.
Hmm.
Seb is like plays guitar like 10 hours a day and is like, I got a whole album ready. And you're like, whoa, crazy.
Right.
And then Seeger's like obviously like the front person, art, all of this stuff, like charm.
Yeah.
um, and then there's like me where I think for a long time I was like, I don't really know where I fit in this vibe. And then when I started booking shows and like booking a lot of our tours and stuff, not the whole thing, but like a big portion of it, I think it really like hit this vibe where like I book a bunch of shows in Montreal. Like I just knew what shows I wanted us to play.
Mm-hmm.
And I just like, especially when I started booking the fest that I booked for like 2 years, it just like became kind of this thing where we would kind of book our own shows, do our own art, manage all of our finances, drive ourselves everywhere. Like it was really just like we just became like an orb of like
Yeah.
get done.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's so, that wasn't something that just happened right off the bat. A lot of times with any band, like you have to figure out your footing and find out like, okay, who's good at what, who wants to do the merch side of things,
Yeah.
who doesn't. And but yeah, it sounds like it's locked in the sense of everyone's in their lane, and the entire GAZM orb, like you said, is just running
Yeah.
at
Got some orb.
yeah. No, that's very cool. I hope
Uh,
you guys do some kind of orb organism kind of piece of merch in the future. That would be very sick. Um, well, Sienna, we're kind of getting to the point where we can kind of start wrapping up.
yeah. Sorry.
I
I just
oh
get going and
no,
it's
that's
so
okay. No, I love some of the tangents that we've been able to go on.
sad.
Oh, I did have this question, and it's this is probably a whack question, and you'll have to go to Sienna's Instagram to know the context. But what's the deal with this mirror that you're so fond of?
I hate that mirror. Oh my god.
Okay, so
Oh
for
my
context for people listening,
god.
Sienna posted just a few days ago, as far as the time of recording this podcast, that you were getting rid of a mirror and you were having these reflections of, and then I was like, oh, okay, like maybe you had, but then it's like in your profile picture, there's multiple posts on your Instagram where you had this. So I was like, okay,
Yeah.
what's the deal with the mirror? So
Oh my God, that's so funny. I posted that picture and then I went, I wonder if this mirror is in any other posts I've made. And I looked and I was like, look, literally, it's so appropriate. It is a mirror that I found on the street
Okay.
in Montreal. And I made Seeger and two of my friends carry it because it was so heavy
Yeah.
and shaped like, who shapes a mirror like that?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
at
For the
that
visual
point,
people, it's not just it's kind of like if you took a rectangular mirror and then cut the top corner off of it.
it's very strange, really heavy. And I just carried it into the apartment and for some reason just never got another mirror. Never got another mirror. Seeger used it in the tattoo studio. Like it was just there, always there.
Hmm.
And then when we moved to Fredericton, we left all of our stuff behind and like movers had to like our friend Laura, God bless her, love her. She's in Regina right now, actually.
Oh, okay.
Shout out Western Canada.
Yeah.
And she packed up the whole apartment, which was of course very nice of her, and we got it moved. And in my head I went, that mirror's going in the garbage in Montreal. And then the movers get here and they unload the truck and the guy with the mirror, he just sits it in the garage. And I was like, it's following me, it's here, I don't want it, I had to pay money to get it delivered, I do not want this here. So I took it to Value Village. If you're in Fredericton, you could probably find that mirror at Value Village, though. If any listeners are in Fredericton, you could go to the Value Village, the one Value Village here, and you could get it if you want it that bad.
Do you know how much they're selling it for?
I have no idea.
Okay.
I'm hoping
You're like, there's no
God.
way I'm going back there to even give that mirror any more time of my life.
Oh, goodbye. Yeah. You know what I do? It was my only mirror for like 5.5 years. So
yeah,
I valued it. Thank you for helping me, mirror. But really, at the end of the day, I don't need a mirror that heavy. It's so heavy it can't hang on the wall.
Oh,
we tried to.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah,
ripped a hole down the wall. Like it cannot go on a wall. It's so heavy. Who made this mirror? Is it custom?
Well, that all makes sense because all the photos, the mirror's on the floor. I was like, why don't they hang it up if
it is a nightmare mirror, literally.
Well, yeah, I didn't know that the feelings around that were the way that they are, but I just thought that was just a funny thing to see the how this thing has followed you, and you're like, okay, even though I'm all the way out here in Fredericton now, like you are going to the Value Village and you're becoming someone else's problem.
I did. I was like, this has to go. I hope someone maybe has stronger walls. I don't know.
Well, Sienna, this has been a great conversation. I think naturally with shows, sometime in meeting people, it's like, oh yeah, like you don't get to have, a sit down, quiet, one-on-one conversation. So this has been a blast. The last question I asked all my guests on the podcast is a favorite Mosh story that they would like to share. So that doesn't necessarily need to be something that you did or happened to you or happened at a GAZM show. Whatever's the first thing to your mind.
I think first of all, moshing is amazing. I love it. It's great.
Right.
I have been moshing since I was really young. I just went for it. I was like, I'm big. It's fine. I'm going to go for this. And it is so fun and I love it. And I think, man, there's so many good ones. There's so many good mosh stories, but I think my favorite, this is kind of self-absorbed, I guess, but whatever. It's my moment to shine.
Yeah, it is.
Was when people in Toronto used to literally, it was going around that they would call me the Annihilator.
Okay.
Because I basically was just like, okay, I am a teenage girl. I need to go hard and heavy. And I would do the side to side, but push entire crowds of people over. So it was my one, the style, I learned how to two-step a year or 2 years ago. Not, you know what I mean? This is mid-paced, hardcore, dumb riffs. And I am there literally just side to side, literally just shoving entire areas of the room like over.
Yeah, making every venue that you're at just that much wide. Just
just gotta make, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's fun. I definitely take pride in moshing. I take pride in being a mosher. Every time I see someone who's like not a man basically moshing, I'm just like, you, and this is amazing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like really, I think it's really fun.
Yeah, no,
So, pro mosh.
pro mosh. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and I think having the title of Annihilator is like, yeah, that's worth you flexing a little bit.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
Sienna,
It was the first thing that came to mind. It was the first thing that popped into my mind. I was like, oh God, like
yeah, it's so weird because I did a Q&A just myself in this room, just like me talking to a microphone, and someone had threw the question on me when I was like asking for questions, and the first thing that came to mind was, I remember in Winnipeg, I'm resharing this, so if the guy is listening, you get 2 shout outs, but a guy back in Winnipeg at these bigger metal and hardcore, metalcore kind of shows would always get on stage for one of the bands and do a backflip just on the spot. And that as soon as you get on stage, I'm like, I was with someone who'd be like, you have to like look at this kid, and he would just do it and then stage dive off. So
the one time I saw Turnstile and Freaky Franz did a backflip on stage, I lost my mind.
Oh yes, I have seen those. Yeah.
A huge fan of, love that energy.
Yes.
Love
yeah.
Backflip, a standing backflip. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Dude.
You're not going to see that anywhere else. So
no, where else would I see a guy just stand and backflip? You know what I mean? Like, I love it. Love that energy.
Is there any shout outs, plugs, anywhere that you want to send people after this podcast, Sienna? The floor is kind of yours, whatever you want to kind of send the people off with.
Well, I did kind of want to talk about Demo Fest. Have you heard of this?
No, please educate.
Okay. So 2 of my friends in Montreal, Sasha and Martin, have set up. It's basically like a pandemic fest kind of vibe.
Okay.
Where you had to like not apply, but you had to like send in your name. And the idea is that from now, or like it was from September, I think was the last day to apply, until December, you like make a demo.
Oh.
Like whatever that means, if it's like starting a new band or like at your house, like making a demo, and then you submit the demo, and they're basically making a Bandcamp. I'm assuming it's Bandcamp, some sort of streaming where you can stream all the downloads and buy, or all the demos and buy copies, and all of it goes to Solidarity Across Borders.
Cool.
So it's gonna be fun. I am in a new band, which is fun.
Okay.
Yes, new band in Fredericton with my friends in Fredericton. Seeger is playing drums in this band actually, and I'm playing bass again. But our 2 from Fredericton are in it, and I'm very excited about it. And also, it's like for a good cause, I think. And there's like 300. I think 300 people said they were gonna make, like they applied to like be a part of it.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be like, I think there's gonna be a lot of new. I'm hoping a lot of new like Canadian stuff, a lot of new, like a lot of bedroom projects.
Yeah.
But like a lot of new fun hardcore stuff.
Yeah, that's very, and it's called Demo Fest.
Yeah, Demo Fest. They have an Instagram.
Okay.
They have an Instagram.
I'm just gonna make sure that I can send the listeners with the correct spelling.
Yes. Demo Fest.
Demo.
It's one of them.
Demo _fest.
Let me check. Hold on.
That look about right?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Well, now we are following them. So shout out to Demo Fest. I'm very excited to see, because I'm always on the hunt for new music, especially during this time. So I will definitely keep an eye on that. And I really hope that the GAZM and Scope machines can, or orbs can cross eventually in the future. And Sienna, thank you so much for coming on the podcast and jamming with me. This was a blast.
Yes, thank you so much. It was so much fun.
Of course.